Yep, we're ready.
Ready to get on the ghost. Hey, Art.
Hello.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Likewise.
How's it going today? Well, good. I love the hat. You look very festive. Is that your cup string?
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Does they have one of the players' names, or they have them all on there? Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's neat.
Luckily, somebody was pulling out.
The volume currently is way too loud on that.
Yeah, we're having trouble. Dave's fighting a good fight, but it's,
All right, keep going.
all right. We ready? All right, everybody. Thanks for coming today. We're just going to get started. Our topic today is Christianity. Is the world better without Christianity? So we probably have some thoughts on that. Maybe we can kind of look at both sides of the coin and see how other people might think about that. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I really don't need it now, but I just want to welcome everybody. Feel free to join us. We're open group of folks. We're just here to have some really great discussions on a sunny day. So thank you for joining us online. We hope that open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. There's none like you. Into the darkness we shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger, our God higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power, our God, our God. Into the darkness we shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger, God is higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power, our God, our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then who can stand against us? If our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And
So the topic that we're going to kind of kick around today is the world better without Christianity? And we have a short video for us to kind of consider some thoughts about people who are on the video about the world and Christianity. So take a tune in.
The process for me of was really interesting. I really initially couldn't really distinguish it. I just thought of like, oh, all Christians are just Christians. I thought it was just kind of a universal thing. And I was sold a lot of things about America being a Christian nation, about a Republican being a Christian voter, from homeschooling to politics to morality, all these things that were used to define what a Christian is. Oh, you need to homeschool your kids, or you need to vote this way, or you need to. And as I started seeing that more and more, I did develop, I guess you would say, a distaste for it myself. Became annoying, made me sometimes not want to be perceived as being that. It really got to the core me of, well then, why am I a Christian? What does that mean? Because no, definitely not being ashamed of Christ, and yet at the same time, by being ashamed of certain negotiations, you become detached from why you're a Christian in the first place. And for me, seeing annoyances in other people, I had to start thinking about, in which ways am I annoying? In which ways do I impose things on other people? In which ways do I assume that I'm better than someone else because of what I believe? When I think of religion and I think of all the atrocious things which have been done in the name of religion, including things done in the name of Christianity, God's word used to manipulate purposes, to manipulate people. Religion has been a powerful tool that has been used in evil ways. But the world without Christianity is the world without Christ. He is the answer to that wickedness. He is the answer to those manipulations, to the wickedness that is in our own hearts. And so, when I think about the world without Christianity, I think of us completely left to our own. The wickedness of the human heart would continue to reveal itself.
I found those thoughts really compelling in terms of like how Christians are viewed. I wonder if we often keep that in our minds about how we're viewed and how we're living out our daily life and how we act. What are some thoughts that the speaker talked about that interested you, that piqued your mind? Yeah, Art.
Well, he said, what would the world be like without Christianity?
Yeah.
And let's just take the hot button of politics and talk about slavery.
Okay.
There are some who used to teach that slavery was condoned in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And I will contend that those who say that don't know the Bible very well.
Right.
Because when Jesus said his first public statement, which is quoted in Luke chapter 4, one of the things he said he was there to do was to set captives free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you read Exodus chapter 21. That's the chapter that follows the Ten Commandments. It goes into detail of that thou shalt not kill commandment.
Yeah.
And that commandment about kidnapping, which wasn't really in the first 10 commandments, but it goes into that detail, and it says if you kidnap somebody and you're found with that kidnapped victim, you should be put to death.
Mm.
Or if you sold your kidnapped victim into slavery.
Yeah. So and teachings around that subject of slavery, and even Jesus was thinking in a wider sense, more than just a person who's physically kept under the rule of a person against their will, but he's talking about also a different kind of slavery of I think what the speaker said was like slavery of our hearts and our own sinfulness in our hearts. And so, yeah, I mean, we could go down the myriad of topics like slavery. Even I liked how he picked like politics, like Christianity.
Let me finish the politics stuff.
Sure.
I heard people tell me in Chicago, and I work as an election judge in Chicago, so I'm there a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that if Trump gets elected, we're going to go back to the Jim Crow laws and the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not teaching in the schools that the KKK was founded from voting in the South.
Yeah.
And they're not teaching that the Jim Crow laws, again, were elected by Southern Democrats to keep blacks from voting who had been freed from slavery.
Mm-hmm.
People look at the KKK as if it was an example of Christianity. They look at the bad examples of Christianity, like
Right.
Westboro Baptist Church.
And there have been many. And we're going to get to that.
I'm just saying, those types of things are not being taught correctly in our schools.
Yeah. So,
And slavery in the world today was ended primarily by a guy named Wilberforce who lived in England, who says we cannot continue to have slaves if we call ourselves Christian.
Yeah.
And most of the Christian world today has outlawed slavery.
Yeah.
And today the only place slavery is condoned or allowed is in Muslim countries.
Yeah. Good points. Let's drill into something a little wider. Has Christianity just become another religion that manipulates our culture? Do you think that it's possible that people might think that Christianity tries to make an impact to manipulate the culture of the society? What do you think about that?
Well,
Lee.
one complaint that non-Christians have is that, you have to believe in Christ, with God,
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the other religions and they have demanding things that do, and Christianity doesn't demand you. It's grace,
Yeah.
You're free to live your life. You're not demanding that you have to follow all these different rules and
So
regulations.
if I'm hearing you, it's like maybe somebody might get the thought that, well, if Christians are trying to change me,
Right, yeah.
and I've got something wrong with me, so they're going to impose their thoughts on me, and I have to change. So, someone might say, I kind of like who I am. I think I'm doing okay. So they might view Christianity as manipulating me to think a different way.
But we got to look at that word manipulate.
Yeah.
How would that sentence be if we change the word manipulate to influence?
Oh, very good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Manipulate is a word that means to influence, but doing so in a nefarious
Forceful
way.
manner. Right. Yeah.
In a dishonest way.
Yeah. Right. But some would kind of think that, we're up, we have a motive. Like we come to them in one way, but then we slide something in under the door, kind of a thing. So I hear what you're saying, and I'm just trying to think of the thought of someone who's not a Christian. Yeah.
Kind of like we don't really care about the person. We're just trying to get them to see our point, but we don't really care about their soul ultimately. Because I would say everybody in this room, we want people to be Christians because we want to see them saved and in heaven.
Right.
But a non-Christian might see it as you're just trying to convert me and you don't really care about me as a person.
Yeah, so they're feeling like you have a motive and you're just trying to add a number to your club, potentially. But I like what you said, influence, has how is that different? How has Christianity influenced our culture? Maybe you can think of ways, how has Christianity influenced our culture?
In most of the country, they had something that's commonly known as blue laws, where they said, let's close down the bars on Sunday.
Right, yeah, right. No
Let's
bars
shut
open.
the bars down at midnight Saturday night, hoping to get the drunks out of the bars and into church Sunday morning, which was a good thing.
Right. Even in Indiana, I lived in Indiana. On Sunday, you couldn't buy liquor on Indiana, but now they just repealed that and opened that up. So that's
And there used to be laws around here that says bars were closed on election day.
yeah.
Now, I don't know what will happen this Tuesday, because I'm an election judge. I'm not looking for bars, but I'd be very curious to see if all these things here are open on Tuesday or not.
Sure. Oh, they will be. Yeah. Why not? They're not going to. And think of like, if you think back in time, maybe 30 years ago or so, maybe a little longer, on Sundays, how about stores? Would all the stores be open on Sundays? So what's the impact or the influence of that on society to say, we're not going to have the Jewel's not open on Sunday, or the hardware store's not open? Was that a good influence on society, you think? In what ways would you see a positive influence on that? What might that?
The positive influence is all those Jewel employees who are at work today could go to church if they wanted to. Where now a lot of people work for our store.
Could give them a day of rest, communicate with their family, go to church, include that in their lifestyle.
But in one point of view is you're giving people a day of rest, but if you're giving people Thursday off, there aren't many churches that have a church service on Thursday.
Right, yeah.
But if everybody's got Sunday off, most churches meet on Sunday morning.
So we know our country has moved beyond that, and where like the prevailing thought is to work, be available, let the community bustle, have commerce, and so that influence has kind of gone away to where now we just see a couple of companies, like Hobby Lobby. They're not open on Sundays. Chick-fil-A, not open on Sundays. And they're sacrificing a lot to their bottom line. So there's still, what are priorities in our lives as Christians? So let's think of more benefits that Christianity has brought to our culture. Think of like natural disasters. How has Christianity helped in natural disasters?
There are lots of Christian groups respond to natural disasters.
Right. Yeah.
There's more prayer.
There's more prayer going on in those situations. If Christians are coming and responding, I don't know of any other religious groups. There certainly may be who respond to natural disasters, but from my experience, it seems like a lot of Christian groups do respond to help others in need. And certainly you see that in Hurricane Harvey, something like that, where they weren't doing it and saying, oh, look at me, I'm a Christian. And there were a lot of non-Christians who were responding, helping the neighbor out. And it really kind of pulled that out of people. One thing I remember, I think Marilyn and Steve, you were down in Henryville, Indiana, and they had a horrible tornado, and we were helping this man's, he had a trailer that was just ruined, and we were to disassemble everything inside and take the roof off so it could be taken away. And he was a young man about, what would you say, like maybe 35? Yeah. He didn't know what to do. He was kind of like, I don't know where to start. And so our group comes, and I think there was another group, and we just started helping him. And he wasn't really participating. And he was kind of sitting off to the side watching what we were doing. And as the days went on, he then would engage with us. Well, do you guys get paid for this? No, we don't get paid for this. So do you guys work? Yeah, we work. So you took time off of your work to come? Yeah. Why? So in Christians coming, it kind of gets people to see maybe what it's really all about, that we're willing to help and give of our time and our efforts. And as the week went on, you could see that he started engaging and helping out. So it was almost like our presence there gave him hope that, well, we could get this job done so he could get a new trailer put in. And so you begin to see differences in people as their views of, who Christians are. If they come with no ulterior motives, we didn't come for anything other than to help. So that's kind of what comes to mind about, for me, as I think of like natural disasters, how Christianity has helped others. Yeah.
In the 1800s, a doctor who was a Christian, Bible-believing, Bible reader, noticed that 40% of the women that gave birth in his hospital, 40% of the women were dying. Yet 90% of the women who had home births lived. This is the 1800s, when they didn't have really fancy medicine like we do today.
Right.
And he was reading in his Bible and it said, after you touch a dead body, you ought to wash your hands. So since he was an administrator, he told all the doctors in his hospital, every time you touch a dead body, you need to wash your hands.
Yeah, sanitation, yeah.
And so they said, why? And so at this one hospital, they all started washing their hands every time they touched any patient before they touched the next patient.
Yeah.
They'd wash their hand. All of a sudden, the mortality rate of the women giving birth in the hospital was now, instead of 40% dying, it's now 3% dying.
Yeah.
And they went, wow, what happened?
So you found that in the Word of God. Yeah.
The practice of washing your hands,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't understand. We didn't have microscopes. They didn't know what bacteria and viruses were.
Sure.
But they found it helped people live.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of hospitals, how many of you ever been to the Hindu Hospital of Chicago? How about the Shinto Hospital of Chicago? But you've been to a Jewish hospital, Mount Sinai. You've been to a Christian hospital. Not Christian religions don't start hospitals.
Right.
Every hospital started by a religion in the world is either a Jewish or a Christian organization.
Yeah. So the Judeo-Christian ethic
Promotes.
is helping others
Yes.
with bodily health and things like that. So that's a great example of another how Christianity benefits.
Of what would the world be like without Christ and Christianity, I think it always kind of turns to the word hope.
Okay.
Because if there is no Christ, there is no heaven and all of that kind of thing, then we're left with the world as we see it here. And for so many people, the world is a cold and difficult and challenging,
Mm-hmm.
sad place. And what Christ brings to this is just a whole sense, an overlying umbrella sense of hope, that all of this struggle and difficulty and challenge and sadness that we face here on this earth are really just a blink of an eye in compared to the time that we'll be in heaven, where there's no pain. We'll be in the presence of God, and we'll be singing with angels and all of that. And that's timeless compared to just this little blink of an eye here on earth. And that's the difference that being a believer in Christ makes.
Have you ever seen Francis Chan's explanation with a rope about eternity and time?
I haven't.
Oh, it's really awesome. He takes this corded rope, and probably about as much as my finger is all red, and the rest of it, which just goes and goes and goes, you can't see the end, is all white. And he goes, this is our life here on earth. This is the existence of earth. And we put all this energy and toil and concern about this time when there's an infinite amount of time that we're reaching toward. So it was kind of like a great example to me, like there's so much, as you said, there's pain, there's sorrow, there's suffering, where even in this small bit of time we could lose hope. But yet if we can see what lies ahead, there's a certainty in like, okay, this is all just but a short blip, like you were saying. So.
And then you add to that the promise that we'll be able to see the believers who have fallen before us, our loved ones, that we'll be able to we'll be able to to be with them and share this with them is amazing.
Yeah, we just said goodbye to a dear friend, John, yesterday. I was with his family. He was at the gravesite, and we spoke about that hope. You know, it's a certain hope. And the Apostle Paul says, we don't want you to grieve as those who have no hope. So we want you to know what's going to happen from, this is what God has told us. And he talks about eternal things, and we're going to be together again. So that is a hopeful thing. Like, well, this kind of, I have something to look for beyond this life. You know, that's great. Dave, you had a thought.
I think in our country, I mean, Christianity has a mixed record in terms of positive and negative impacts.
Yep, mixed record.
Obviously, I'm kind of biased, so I'd say primarily positive, but one of the things I noticed as a history teacher is that if you particularly go back to the 19th century, early 20th century, a large amount of what I would call the altruistic reform movements, which were based on doing something good for others,
Yes.
as opposed to gaining something for oneself, were religiously motivated. While that was not exclusively Christian, that was very largely done by theists and very often Christians. We're looking at, if we're going to have putting into the world the Christian principles, you know, and that may be as much as early opposition to slavery, reforming things for how the insane were treated, you know, various things which are designed to improve the lot of others. And there's a lot of reform movements which are based on gaining something for one's own group, which may very well be legitimate goals. But this, if I would call them the selfless ones, often are very much dominated by religious ideas that I need to extend to others the benefits or the blessings that I've been receiving.
Gotcha.
And then sometimes you get things like, say, public schools are largely the descendant of the early public schools of Massachusetts and the Christians of, you know, basically Calvinist persuasion in New England. That in turn took off and became public schools or secularized, but the whole idea that everybody should read and be educated.
Yes.
And on the other hand, you have sometimes where Christians have been very repressive of others, or people in the name of Christ.
Yes.
You know, the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Claiming kind of a twisted form of Christianity.
Right.
Very perverse form, but you know, there's a lot of motivations for what they did, but one of them was kind of cultural maintenance as they saw culture should be. So it, you know, we do have I think we have to own up to the places where people in the name of Christ or in the name of religion have done some awful things and say, yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, I think you're right, because a lot of people will put those things up in a discussion, and it's like, okay, we need to acknowledge it and say, yeah, that happened. Now, what do we do moving forward? Great points. Tim, what do you think?
It's interesting. I'm with people all the time, and they're almost always I'm with Christians. So now I have a new client who's Hindu.
Okay.
And I don't think I've ever met her right next to her for like an hour, just driving along. And so we somehow got on religion. And I asked her, I said, you know, what religion are you? She said, I'm a Hindu. I said, well, I'm a Christian. And then we talked about the bad things that are going on in the world. And she goes, things like that have been happening forever. And she pointed out to the Crusades. And I said, those are, in my opinion, those are absolutely wrong. Okay, and it was really done, you know, the kings did these things for personal gain. And then she talked about, she's a history buff. She talked about how they were going off on a crusade and they changed the country they went after. And they went after a Christian country. But because that country was in the Middle East, was very rich, so they could bring back a lot of spoils back for their, and I had Christians got that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it was a very interesting conversation. And then I said, well, really, you know, Jesus basically espoused and love your neighbor as yourself. And if that's all we did, everyone did that, it would solve one heck of a lot of the problems that we got in the world.
Right.
So it was the first time that I've been able to witness to a Hindu, and I thought it went well.
Good.
So
That's great. You have an opportunity
Yeah.
to share and hear from them too. Yeah, Donald.
Kind of going with the devil's advocate thing. We talked a little bit about prayer,
Yeah.
but what non-Christian might say, well, what good is prayer going to do? Are you
Right.
really helping anybody? I know you showed me the game that somebody you know posted where you did all the thoughts and prayers,
Yeah.
and then ultimately just conclude you did nothing except for praying. It didn't help anybody.
Yeah. It was after the Parkland shooting, all that talk about don't give me your thoughts and prayers, don't give me thoughts and prayers. And it was a video app that you just keep thoughts, prayers, and you keep pushing. And you have so much time. And, you had 150 thoughts and prayers. And it said, how many lives did you save? And it says 0. So it's kind of like this kind of snarky looking way to look at thoughts and prayers. And so it's a great question. I mean, is the prayer thing to some, you're just trying to make me feel good so I can take your next step. But I think it goes to really down to the humanness of if we come to someone and really try and understand the heartbreak that they're going through, perhaps in a natural disaster or a loss, that we can be there to let them express their hurts and their sorrows and say, I'd like to carry this up to God who can give you encouragement, hope, and love. And that's our prayer, is that they receive that and then see it for their own selves. Yes, I can move on the next day because, kind of like what you're always saying, Dave, I've got someone who cared about me enough to spend time and listen to me and offer something for me, more than just a feel good. It's just we don't just pray and go away. We keep walking. And maybe that's where Christianity does help the world. Kind of as you were saying, Tim, just we keep loving each other. If we just did that. And there's a lot of non-Christians who love people. They're really good at loving neighbors. Dave, you have a thought?
Kind of going off of what Pastor had said, I think James kind of points that out. He doesn't specifically mention prayer, but suppose a brother or sisters without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, "Go, I wish you well,
Yeah.
keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? Okay, and I think that non-Christians are picking up on that. Thoughts and prayers. They're not necessarily really offended by the thoughts and prayers, but if they're unaccompanied by any sort of
Any
action,
right?
They're basically pointing out what James points out. What
Yeah.
good is it?
Right. It's a good point.
Thoughts and prayers need to also be
Yeah.
accompanied by.
Right. Be well. Thoughts and prayers.
I'll
Yeah.
pray
Yeah. I
for
get
you.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next step is, and how can I possibly be the answer to that prayer?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Even today, our pastor Tom, he talked about, if someone says, "Oh, can you pray for me?" and you say, "Yeah," well, that's nice. I'll remember you. Well, just do it. Be an active participant in the gospel and help that person. Be Jesus in that moment and offer a prayer. Let's look at the last question real quick. How is Christianity different than any other cause for good in our culture? There's a lot of good causes. There's a lot of good people who don't help others in the name of Christ, but help others in the name of humanity. How is it different? Are we different?
We can not only help them with their physical needs, but we can help them with their spiritual needs,
Yeah.
a little step farther.
Right.
Step.
Big step. It goes back to that Francis Chan thing, we can help the physical needs, what you need to support your body and life in this life. But hey, we've got something that'll help you get to that long part of the road that Francis Chan was talking about. So I think we've been articulating that a little bit today about hope and salvation, life eternal, love.
I was just going to say it's a really good question. I think you could fairly say that the results of both are similar.
Could be, yeah.
And yet the motivation is night and day different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Art.
I actually did this audit of what happens to $1 that was donated to the Red Cross
Okay.
for the hurricane that hit Haiti or someplace like that.
Mm-hmm.
They said on TV, give $1 on your cell phone to text Haiti to this code on your cell phone, you'll get billed
Sure.
$10 to help Haiti.
Yeah.
Well, where did that $10 go to? Okay? And I asked the question, cell phone company.
Okay. Now you're down to 9.
$8 went to overhead of the Red Cross, including $600,000 salaries for the people who run the Red Cross. $1 actually went to Haiti.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you would have given $10 to the Salvation Army, $1 would have gone to overhead and $9 went to Haiti.
Yeah. Really, there's the difference in some of these organizations that even look like almost Christian.
Well,
you know, and
The Wounded Warrior Project is one of my pet peeves
mhm.
because I looked at their published financial statements that you can get through the internet,
Yeah.
indicating that their top 5 employees are all paid more than $300,000 a year, and only 7% of their money actually helps veterans.
Yeah, it's wise for us to
Okay.
kind of look at these things before we give. And there's certainly that, and that's where you can find, you know, dollar in, dollar out ministries, and one that we all know very well, Lutheran Church Charities. Whatever comes in goes out. It's a complete pass through, and so it is wise for us nowadays, because you're right. Some just become yet another organization that is top down and trickle out to the people in need. It's a great point. And, sometimes you can't tell the difference on the face of it, because on the face, it looks like, oh, good organization. They do a lot of good in the name. It's because they're so large, so.
And they advertise a lot.
They advertise a lot. They're in, that you see them a lot. Absolutely. Let's take a look, if we could, at another slide down. I guess I didn't too good on this margins here, but this is from Philippians 1:3 of how, like, Christianity, doing things in the name of Christ might help a group. This was the church in Philippi. And Paul is writing, he says, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, for you all making my prayer with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. When I was looking at this morning, I thought, that's kind of what we can do. We can partner with others, our culture, our community. We can partner together in the name of gospel. Towns, and all the things that we kind of discussed, helping people in need. This shows a partnership. This shows a group of people who saw the good of what Paul was trying to accomplish and said, we're going to endeavor to make this a priority for us. So he was grateful for it, for a guy who was kind of forging out from area to area, city to city, that he knew when he left this place, it would be like if Paul came to Palatine, and he got a group of people in Palatine who would continue to do the work of the gospel in the name of Jesus. And it would encompass everything we've talked about, from prayer to acts of service to kindness to sharing the gospel. That would say that group of people is carrying that out. And he's talking about it's a good work, and it's going to come to fruition where it will be completed when Jesus comes again. So he's encouraging them, keep doing the work that you're doing, because it is making a difference in your community. And so I just thought that was an interesting example of Paul partnering with a group of people and making a difference in culture. So, all right, we're going to take time to talk to God, and Donald's going to come up and lead us in that. Thanks for your discussion.
When we have any prayer requests, whether online, here in person, then we can take it before God and talk to God about. Art?
I had surgery about 3 months ago, and I'm starting to have a bunch of unpleasant side effects from that surgery.
Okay.
that need prayer.
Okay.
Bob,
Bob.
My cousin Linda had surgery.
Okay.
The election coming up,
Election.
maybe we could get some honest people in.
Okay.
My Debbie's got it headed. It's really bad today.
Thank God for healing from my wife's treatment. Went well.
Okay, so we'll just go and
Let me make one more. A friend of mine, his name is Mark, had a bone marrow transplant last summer because of leukemia. And he's in the hospital right now with the flu. Of course, when you have a bone marrow transplant, it kills off your normal immune system. So anytime he has a little bit of a problem, they put him in the hospital.
okay.
But his first name is Mark.
Okay. So
And he's a brand new Christian. Within the last 2 or 3 years.
okay. So let's go before our Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time where we can discuss this issue. Is the world better without Christianity? We know that you work through each one of us to be little Christ so that we can be extensions of your love to this world that desperately needs your love in it. So we just lift up to you a few things this afternoon. We lift up to you our still dealing with complications from a surgery you had a few months ago. We ask you to help take away those complications. Help get the right things, medicines, or whatever needs to be done with the doctors to help limit those and remove those so he can go back to the comfort of the life that he knows and he's used to living. We also ask you to be with Bob as he is recovering from shoulder surgery this past week. And we know that he misses being here and not being able to use the gifts you've given to him to praise you. So we just ask you for quick healing for Bob as he continues to recover from this. And with Marilyn's cousin, as they're going through hip replacement, to just let that be a successful healing process and be with them, keep them safe from all other complications that could come of that. And we ask you to be with our country as we have some elections coming up this week. Help people to vote for people that are pleasing to you, that will make decisions that are not just for their benefit, but for the benefit of all people, that they make Christian decisions and what they do and show that love for the people that need love in their life. And we also lift up to you Gwen as she's had a successful treatment last week. We just thank you for the good news that was done and the improvements we've seen in her health with that. And we also lift up Mark as he has been struggling with, after bone marrow transplant, being sick, being in the hospital. So we just ask you to be with him, give him the strength and the healing that he needs, and be with Debbie as she is battling a headache. And we know that is not any fun dealing with those. So we just lift her up, keep her safe, let healing happen in that. And we just thank you for the blessings and ask you to continue to help us show your love to all people. And it's through Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So we're going to turn over to the praise team as we wrap up here this afternoon. And just a reminder, those online, those here, invite your friends, whether in person or online, so we can continue this discussion. I think next week, with it being Palm Sunday, we're going to be looking at the question that everybody wants to know the answer to is, what is really life after death? Is there such a thing as life after death?
so the song called The River, I heard it on my laptop the other day and thought it was just perfect. When you don't know what to do, just go ahead and pray, and God will lead you to the right people and help to heal your soul. So.
Awesome.
Place where we can go to lay the troubles down and go. So I know a place where mercy flows. Take the stings and make your legs go. Like a tide, it is rising up deep inside a girl, and that it burns and makes it come alive. Living water that drinks it takes alive. We're going down to the river, down to the river, down rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will be ashamed. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. Let's go down.
All right, thank you, band. Awesome. Thanks for coming, everybody. God bless your day, and we'll see you next week. Bring a friend. Enjoy the day.